Welcome to The Ethical Stitch, where fashion meets integrity and style gets a conscience. I'm your host, Michelle Alleyne, fashion strategist, educator, and sustainability geek. Let's unravel what it really means to create, shop, and live ethically. Hey everyone, welcome back to The Ethical Stitch. I'm your host, Michelle Alleyne. This is a space where fashion sheds its filter, where we talk about what really matters, planet, people, purpose, and the power we hold when we stitch with intention instead of impulse. This show, it's not just about style, it's about storytelling, system shaking, and soul work. And today's episode is all of that. I have a wonderful guest today with us. So let's step into the green room. This is where we loosen the seams, we kick off our heels, and we talk like we would poolside at the golden hour with an Aperol spritz in hand. Linen flowing, breezing in the wind, but the conversation is real. The green room is not about polish, it's about presence. It's where we speak from the gut, from the grind, from the grace of showing up differently. And today's guest, baby, she came with the assignment already outlined. We met a couple months ago at the Global Fashion Summit in Denmark, and the moment she spoke, it landed. Her ideas challenged the system with gentleness, with clarity, with real lived experience. Quiet fire, but big vision. Thoughtful leadership, and I'm excited to have her here. So welcome, Dinie Van Den Heuvel. Dinie's not here to impress, she's here to reframe. She's the co-founder of Infantium Victoria, a children's brand that doesn't just check the sustainable box, it rewrites the label entirely. Organic, vegan, and ethically made. And most importantly, rooted in values you can actually feel. She's also the author of So What? So SEW, so not SO. A book that doesn't just teach sustainable design, it interrogates the very culture of creation. She's a global educator, sharing her knowledge at places like HED Geneva, IFM Paris, Anant University in India, and now she's deep into a PhD. Wow. Unpacking ecological literacy in fashion design education. Because of a course, I'm going to skip that. But what I love most about Dinie is her stillness, her clarity, her ability to say the most radical thing in the calmest tone and leave you rethinking everything from your wardrobe to your syllabus. Dinie, welcome to The Ethical Stitch.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you, Michelle. So happy to be here.
Yay, I'm happy to have you. All right, let's get into it. When you think back to the Global Fashion Summit this year, what stuck with you? What shifted the room for you?
The people. I mean, we always talk about, what drove you to fashion and why do you love this space? But ever since I pivoted towards sustainability in fashion, it's the people that inspire and that show you different ways that you might not have considered yourself. And so I think the Global Fashion Summit is one of these places where you meet other thinkers that are also asking themselves the same questions you are and that are exploring different answers. And I think that makes it such a valuable space. And I mean, that's where we met. So yeah,
Yes.
I think, I mean, of course, Eileen Fisher on stage was spectacular, and that's like it's like an honor and a privilege to sit there and listen to her. But at the same time, I think the conversations you have in the hallways and in the corridors are so valuable to make sure that you question yourself on the right points.
Love it. I am in 100% agreement with you on that. Incredible people. And yes, that's what brings you here today. I was so excited to have you because I loved meeting you there. Tell us about your brand, Infantium Victoria. It has such a strong identity. What sparked the idea and how has your vision evolved since the early days of the brand?
So we started the brand 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, I co-founded the brand together with Julia, my partner.
Mm-hmm.
And she at the time had one small child. She works and lives in Germany. I work and live in Belgium. I had also one child, but he was already slightly older. And Julia came to me with the idea, if you would have asked me 12 years ago if I would ever have a children's brand, I would have burst out in giggles. That was never in the cards. Like, that was nowhere on my horizon. And I
Wow.
met Julia, and Julia was like, I want to have this children's brand because I want to work in fashion, I want to work in sustainability, and I think if we can offer good quality organic garments to children, we can
Mm-hmm.
make them huge customers of sustainable fashion for the future. And I love that idea. And I was already
Yes.
working in a sustainable space. So we were already experimenting with my own company. I already had a company prior. We were
Mm-hmm.
experimenting and exploring what sustainability could mean. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to understand, 10 years ago in Belgium, sustainability in fashion would mean you could find like one fabric that was organic, and that was really boring, and that was kind of it. And if you were lucky,
Uh,
next season you could get that fabric again. But
oh my God.
that was not even a given. It was really bare land. And Julia came to me and she's like, okay, I will give you free range. You do
Mm.
whatever you want. I have 3 conditions. I said, give them to me. Like, tell me. She goes like, I
Wow.
want it to be organic. I thought, easy. I know how that works. She said, I want
Okay.
it vegan. I'm like, again, I've been vegan for life. I can do this. And she says, and I want
Okay.
40% to be dark or black in color. And I'm like, that's funky for kids wear. But I come from fashion where at that time it was very normal to just wear black. And my wardrobe, like,
Uh-huh.
is
You're
basically,
wearing
I'm
black
like,
now.
all the time. It's what I have. It makes it horrible if you want to find anything, but like, that's the wardrobe. And so I'm like, I can do this. This is going to be funky. It doesn't exist on the market. I can see how we can have a spot for that. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go. And I have to be honest, the one thing at that point, which I never realized was going to be so complex, is the vegan part. Because
Oh,
as a
really?
designer, you want to bring texture to your clothes, and you want to bring this, if you touch it, that there's different hand feels. And usually
Mm-hmm.
that's done with a whole variety of fibers. And if you cut out plastic, and if you cut out animal fibers,
Uh-huh.
then it becomes very limited. Because for
Right.
anybody who's questioning, if you want to have vegan, that means you don't have wool, you don't have silk, you don't have leather, you don't have, there's so many things that you're not even considering. That might not
Ah,
be a big percentage of a collection, but they're the ones that give flavor and texture. And on top of
that.
that, yeah, I mean, when we dove in, I realized that it's not only the fibers, but also there's so much in the dyes and in the treatments of the fibers, which is not vegan and which a lot of people don't even know. So you have to start digging. And it turned into like this excavation session of like figuring out where they use what.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Incredible.
yeah,
You had to
it
learn the whole entire system. And you're right in breaking that down. I mean, when you said vegan, for some reason, I'm just thinking leather. And then I'm like, well, kids wear it. Is there a lot of leather? But you're right. All the animal fibers. Oh my goodness. Tell me more.
Well, I mean, I'm still learning today. Like, we visited a knitwear factory recently, which is a beautiful, they're GOTS, they're certified organic, so Global Organic Textile Standard certified, which means, they don't have any toxicity, they're very audited and controlled. And I'm
Right.
walking around because it's one of my favorite things to do, to visit these factories. So I'm walking around, and all of a sudden I'm there with a friend of mine who also runs a brand. And both of us are like, what are these machines doing? Like, they're running the thread. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, they're putting them from one bobbin to another, but both bobbins are the same size. I'm like, what? And then the lady goes like, yeah, we're waxing them so they go through the machine easier. And all of a sudden, me and my friend, we go like, wait a second, what's the wax? What's
Wow.
the wax? Because either it's beeswax, or it's synthetic wax, or it's soy wax, or it's something else. But what's the wax? Yeah.
What
So
was
she
the
had to
wax?
figure it out because there's
What
options.
was the wax?
What?
I'm like, what was the wax?
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
into.
So it turns out you have choices.
Mhm.
Nobody asks you this because nobody asked the question. The lady of the factory didn't know which one they had because they just had the ones their supplier offered. But we then got into
Right.
it and go like, okay, what are the options? What is the vegan option? That's the one we want. Like, can we get that for our stuff? And she's like, oh my God, you're the first one to ever ask that. And I'm like, yeah, I never thought about that because I never saw
Wow.
it.
Was that a difficult change to shift?
No,
No?
it's
Right.
It's super simple. They just take it looks like little round soaps on the machine.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Mm-hmm.
take them off and you replace them with others. Now, obviously, not every factory is going to think this is funny. Like you coming
Right.
in there messing up their system and only for
Right.
one order. We're not like the biggest brand in the world, but
Mhm.
if you have a company which is into sustainability, they're used to these
Yes.
kind of weird questions. Like we're not the only ones.
I love that. Wow. What I mean, I love walking through factories anyway. So you got me. You pulled out my factory geek there. But
Yeah.
that's incredible. It's so many, parts in that, parts to making a collection, and they're all moving, and you have to be so in tuned if you're trying to keep it ethical. So kudos to you. Wow. I'm just so blown away. I love the fact that you have a kids wear line that is sustainable. I mean, it's so with that, I do have a question. Kids grow quickly. I'm wondering, how do you approach that challenge in your design thinking and sustainability mission? The fact that kids just grow out of sizing and need to move to the next size quickly. Does that fit somewhere into your mission in terms of sustainability?
I mean, as going back even to our previous question, you learn and you
Mhm.
evolve, and people you talk to people and they ask you questions and you think about it. So when we started 10 years ago, I never thought about that. And
Mhm.
over time, I started questioning it, but not because of this conversation, but we got an answer to this question because of something else. So what happened was I had a group of young students coming to my office that were from where a lot of them already had children. And these were, I'm talking 17-year-olds that had teenage moms, and they were on
Mhm.
very low budgets for obvious reasons. They were still studying, and they came to look at our operations. And of course, we had a whole conversation about sustainability being non-accessible if you don't have a certain financial capability there. And it
Mhm.
kept me thinking, and I was like, that's so sad, because these moms and these dads, because they were young dads as well, they're very engaged and they want to have the best for their children, and they're learning, they're going to school, they're coming to visit my office, they now know why there are certain toxins in regular things. If they want to avoid it,
Mhm.
they can't access what we offer, and that's so sad. And I
Oh.
kept on thinking about these young moms and dads, and how much I wish we could cater to them. And then I realized
Mhm.
that our clothes are built to last. Like
Okay.
I had a son who would climb trees and climb mountains, and like you would find him hanging upside down everywhere. He couldn't break our stuff. He would grow
Oh,
out
wow.
of it before you would even know he touched it, because kids grow like cabbage. I mean, as you as originated your question. I realized we have all these clothes that are pristine, and I was assuming that people like myself would just give it to other friends they had with smaller children, and that they would get passed down. But then I realized not everybody has friends that have smaller kids. Sometimes you're the last one in the line, or you just don't have friends that have children. And so in 2017, before anybody on the market was discussing this, I went to Julia and I said, Julia, what if we take our own clothes back and we put them back on our website for 10% of the new value? And Julia went
Wow.
mad, because Julia is the numbers girl. She goes over the finances. I do the creative and sustainability stuff. She does the numbers. She goes like, Dinie, you're crazy. Like we can roll these numbers back and forth, but 10% is like nowhere near the value of the garment. I said, I know, but it's not about that. It's about making sure that these other people have access where they might normally not have access. Because if I sell the pants for $100, everybody's paid fairly, everything's
Mhm.
organic, everything's tested, we are paid, everything is paid. These pants, everybody's done. If we get them back, this is like a free gift. So if we sell them again, we're not going to double profit. We didn't do anything. We just washed them and cleaned them and packed them. Like, this is not a big job. She's like, Dinie,
Mhm.
10% is just not possible. I said, let's look at the numbers. Let's try. Because I want that it's super accessible. I don't want to ever be stuck in a situation where somebody goes like, I can't afford that. And then I have no answer. I just want to avoid
Right.
that. I want to be able to tell you, you can buy my pants for $10. Now, it
Ooh.
turned out $10 is overly ambitious. We now are at about 20 to 35%, but I'm
Okay.
constantly badgering Julia about it because I want to get it down to 10%. So we are working on it continuously. And so depending on the garment, it's going to be cheaper. And so in 2018, we opened a secondhand part of our website where people could buy clothes that have been worn once. And the whole idea is that they're still pristine. If you order them, we will send them to you like they're new. They will have a tag, they will be wrapped. You will never know
Wow.
which one is secondhand and which one is not. Like your kid will never know. You probably will never know.
To applaud. That is major. I love your pre-love program.
And
Incredible.
I mean, when I launched the idea, not only Julia went crazy, all my friends, because I have a lot of friends that work in fashion. I'm sure you do too. I mean, this is our network. They thought
Right.
I was crazy, and they then immediately started saying, "You're going to destroy the value of your brand. You're going to destroy the image of the brand. You're a luxury brand. You know, you can't like just toss stuff super cheap on the market. It's going to be really harmful. People won't buy it for the full price anymore. Because if I can buy it for $10, why would I pay $100?" And obviously, I didn't tell Julia because Julia has
Customer,
friends
right?
in finance. I have friends in design. So I was like, I'm not even going to mention this. This is scary. Like, if it happens, then I will take full responsibility, but I'm not going to tell this. I was really petrified because everybody was warning me against it. And you know what? The funniest thing ever happened, because we can track this, of course. People come to our website and you see them browsing around and they look at stuff and they open left and they open right and they browse around, and our stuff is
Mhm,
expensive. Honestly,
mhm.
it's not expensive. Everybody's paid fairly, which makes it a certain price tag. It's not, it's not a cup of coffee. And so you could see them browsing around. Then they find the pre-loved section. They go in, they find one thing in the size of their kid, goes in the
Mhm.
basket, and they go back rushing to the rest of the website and shop like crazy. Because if you can get
Wow.
one cheap and one full price, you have two for 110. That's a very
Exactly.
good deal. And all of a
Hmm.
sudden, because if you have to already pull out your credit card to pay for one, you might as well just go
Right.
shopping. I think that's the
Exactly.
mental state. I don't know. That's my
It,
perception of what we see happening.
uh-huh.
But what makes me really happy is we have clients that also they will order one piece of the
Hmm.
secondhand part, not shop anything else, and it arrives at their doorstep. And 3-4 days later, the same account will go shopping because they have proof of quality, and the kid likes it,
Yeah.
and it's soft, and it fits, and they're happy with it. And we see some of our garments have reached their seventh owner or their eighth owner. So we
Hmm.
have had 7 families that have bought it from us and gave it back. And
Hmm.
then the next family bought it and it came back. And the same garment just has seen so many different cycles and so many different households. And if the garment is not in good state anymore, we take it out. But we also repair it. So sometimes you will have unique pieces where all of a sudden there's an extra fish on there because we had to repair something, but it will be clearly marked. But then you have a unique piece. But yeah, these
Cute.
pieces stay in circulation. So the designs are not made to adapt to your body, but we make sure that you can get easy access to the next size in a way.
Wow. I love, love, love that model. That's so great. Wow. Let's see. Your brand has such a distinct visual language. How do you hold space for creativity while staying loyal to your ethics?
I think me and the design team, we're a very small team, but we usually start each collection with 2 different poles. So we start with one value driven point and one aesthetic driven point that we want to explore.
Okay.
So we had, for example, we had one collection which was called It Takes a Village, because it takes a village to make a t-shirt.
It does, right?
Yeah, because you take so many different skills and qualities and people to really all come together and make this t-shirt. So we then started looking for ways of showing that. So
Mhm.
that was the value we wanted to present, that it takes a lot of people. And then we had a lot of visual language that we wanted to incorporate. So we were looking for a print that almost that would really show flowers in a winter setting. And so we opted for using only flowers that are plants that we use for textiles. So we had flowers from like cotton flowers, hemp, linen, bamboo. We had all the different ones creating flowers, but only if you look closely. If you don't look closely, it just looks like any other flower print on the market. But if you look closely, you
Oh,
see what the value is that is driving that particular collection. So we try to always blend these two so that we don't get
mhm.
lost. And we try to alternate, but usually it's something that's really close to our heart at that point, like what is happening in the world that we really feel that we want to have our voice in the conversation. What do we want to talk about? And I think one of the really strong things that we did in recent years is we had a t-shirt print which
Uh-huh.
it shows a tiny apartment, a floor plan of a tiny apartment. It has a children's
Oh,
bedroom, a
cool.
master bedroom, and it's 60 square meters. And what is written underneath it is that 160 square meters actually equals one t-shirt, because that's the amount of land you need to grow enough cotton to make one t-shirt.
So you're educating within the design on the
Yeah,
product.
yeah.
I love it. Oh, you're ticking all the boxes. Oh my goodness. I don't have children, but I'm wanting to buy some of your collection. I've got to find some kids. My neighbor next door, maybe. Wow, this is
Gifts.
incredible. I'm loving the gifts, exactly. Wow. Okay. Let's see. Now, you've written a book, So What, as I mentioned in the intro. It reads like a love letter and a challenge at the same time. What responsibility do you believe designers really carry at the start of the creative process?
I think it's a great question, and I think it's very tricky.
Hmm.
And I think it's very kind that you described the book like that, because it was written as like an act of love for the craft.
Uh-huh.
But it was also written because so many people ask us all the time, how do we do things, and how do we do this and how do we approach that? And then I
Hmm.
realized that in design schools, very often we teach students how to design, how to sketch, but we don't really per se teach them how to ask the right questions. And
Hmm.
if you don't know the right questions to ask, you can't find the answers. So they came to us with questions that where I realized they just didn't really know what kind of information they were searching. And so they're looking for a yes or no. Is this good or is it bad? Should I do this or should I do that? But I think that the key there is you need to understand processes. And I know the United Nations has clearly stated that 80% is in hands of the designer. I think that's hugely overestimating the power of designers, especially the bigger the
Hmm.
company, the less actual influence you have. But at the same
Okay.
time, I think it's everybody's personal responsibility. If you design a t-shirt and you don't know the material it is made for, and you don't know what the impact is of the different options you have, how can you make better choices? If you don't
Hmm.
understand the difference between organic and non organic cotton, you will never fight for one or the other because you just don't
Right.
know. And I think that's why I wrote these books, because I really think if you are informed, you can make better choices. And as a designer, you do have a big say. And retrofitting things is virtually impossible. So waiting for the engineer or the production manager to fix what you designed is really not possible. That's not how textile and fashion works. But if you don't
Hmm.
know, you cannot make better choices. So I think they have a big responsibility, but I also am very conscious that you're in a system that is not making it easy.
It's so true. Let's see. You've taught across Europe and India. What are students getting right as you talk about students? And where are you pushing them to go deeper, especially surrounding sustainability?
So I've been teaching for a really long time. Um,
Okay.
Students have a lot of questions, and they have a lot of
Mm.
questions of how we ended up where we are. And it's not because they don't want
Yes.
to make the change, and it's not why because they don't want to do the work, but they're just really challenging. How did we get here? Can we look at what you guys did wrong? I think that's very often where the industry is failing us.
Uh-huh.
I think once they understand that sustainability can be a huge creative challenge, a lot of them embrace it, and they go so far with it, and they take it as as a tool to express themselves. And I think if we could like show them this angle from the beginning, life would be much easier. But very often my classes are quite late in their curriculum, and so they have their own way of doing things and their own materials and their own designer style. And then all of a sudden they have to think of sustainability, and it's just really late. But at the same time, they do understand, and they do want to make the best. They're very
Hmm.
ambitious. They want to make good quality. They want to make high end design. And they understand that if you want to be fashionable, you got to be sustainable, because it's just so yesterday's fashion to not be sustainable. Like they do feel that it's outdated and out fashioned.
That's
So
great.
I'm very happy about that. Like there's no debate about that, but there is
Hmm.
debate of how did we end up here?
Yes. I always feel like what's the name of that platform? It's a teaching platform that is outdated, but the way they built it is they kept adding on top of this bad model, and it just is the worst. And I feel like that's how fashion has done. We keep adding new ways to do bad things on top of the old ways instead of, I think we need to just crash the whole model and shift
I
to
agree.
something, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I
And I
mean,
think what students today do, and what a lot of schools don't or underestimate or really don't respect enough, is students want to exchange. They don't want to gatekeep. They want to ask a
right,
question and get a straightforward answer. They want to
right,
know, but they also want to share and they want to collaborate. So it's not my t-shirt, it's our t-shirt. And it's not my collection, but maybe we work together and I worked with you on the hat and with you on the shoes, and we collectively have
mm,
made this storytelling. And I think this is still very underestimated as a force for change, because
mhm,
it changes creative ownership, and
yes,
it makes a lot of knowledge and a lot of pathways accessible, because I might not be able to buy the fabric I want alone, but if four of us are using it and we all acknowledge that I will use it differently than you, it's never going to look the same. We can collectively buy
right.
it. Like, you have force in numbers, and they're getting
Exactly.
that.
I love that you said that. I preach that so much. I'm like, if this brand and, five brands together can meet these minimums, we can, buy some cleaner raw materials, right? We combine our orders, consolidate and collaborate. Fashion has not been that collaborative in the past, and we really need to do that to move into cleaner processes in the future, right? Such a great point that it always strikes me. I'm like, let's just share. You can use
Yeah,
my factory. Do you know where to get some organic, hemp or whatever? Like,
yeah,
you may know and I may not, but I may have something else that you can use for your brand. And yes, we can share.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
There's such
I
fear
mean, we
of that.
started putting all our information on the website, like where we produce, with who, like the name of the factory, the name of the supplier, the name of the fabric, the name of the button. Like, you want to remake it, go remake it. I'll tell you where we made it. Like,
That's
it's never going to be
wonderful.
the same.
Right. Thank you. That's the new model. All right. You geeked me out there. I got my boosties on. That was let's see. So you're a founder, an educator, a writer, a researcher. That's a lot of hats. How do you personally stay grounded in a system that keeps pushing us to rush, consume, and perform?
Um,
Hmm.
Usually before, I mean, there are several things I do. First of all, I love talking to other people, and I learn from other brands, and I learn what they do and what they don't do, and I share with what we do and what worked for us and what didn't work. I think that's super beneficial. To stay grounded, I go hiking in the mountains with my son, and like staring into nature is like super useful, but that's a huge luxury that I have. Like, my son is 18 now. We still go hiking together, which is really funny. But we go up into the mountains and we spend a lot of time with almost nothing. We have a backpack and that's kind of it. And
Wow.
I,
Grounding.
yeah, literally physically grounding. And I spend a lot of time, and that might sound very posh, but I really love it. I spend a lot of time at art fairs and at art shows and at art biennales, because I always have the feeling that artists and fashion designers have similar ideas or perceptions about society, and they have different tools of expressing themselves. So I find it very useful to see what they are seeing in society and what they're critiquing or what they're commenting on, because it's very often a different voice for the same critiques I'm feeling, and it gives me better tools to articulate it.
Fantastic. Major. I love that. I always wonder where designers get their inspiration, to keep coming up with all these interesting new collections each season. And wow, you broke that down. I think I might try some of that. Maybe the art shows, the art fairs. I don't know about the hiking, but the art fair.
Go swimming. It's equally nice. I mean, some people love the
Yes.
ocean, some love the mountains. It's about being really
Yeah.
confronted with like the endlessness of nature around you.
Yes, right? The earth, right?
Hmm?
We're here. We're using it up. Might as well use it in a more positive manner and
Yeah.
enjoy it. All right. If you could redesign fashion education from the soil up, what would you build into the curriculum that's missing today?
I would do a total overhaul. I would do literally a total overhaul. I think, I don't know how it is in the US, but in Europe, and Europe is in that respect very different than, for example, India. It is
Mhm,
usually
mhm.
taught by people from the industry. So it's taught by people
Okay.
that are practitioners in an old and outdated system. And so you
Yes.
have a perpetuum of the same techniques that have created the mess that are just being projected as how it should be happening. And I think that's hugely damaging. I think sustainability should not be a class, and it definitely should not be optional. It should be foundational. And I think we should stop pretending like you can give heavy theory courses to fashion students, because they are more than capable of taking those on, and you should give them in first year, and then you embed it holistically in every aspect of the curriculum, and you encourage them to come up with different business models and different sales channels and different ways of designing. And I think we got to embrace this endless opportunities that are out there, much more than that we basically form them to have their own brand or to work for a brand. Yes, have
Mhm.
your own brand, but find it in a way that is sustainable, that is circular, that is out there, that has its own personality, that explores different economic routes. Like, go for these kind of things, explore. And there's no safer place to do it than while you're still studying. So please use these safe spaces to enter into those fields that are unknown. And there is no shame if you want to be the next, a hotshot designer in a huge brand, but I need you to have the right knowledge to make sure that once you have power of change, you know where to go.
Yes, I love that answer. Yeah, sustainability shouldn't be a class. I was really lucky teaching at Parsons because I feel like it was embedded. It's embedded in all of the disciplines in within that school. And for years and years, we've been talking about sustainability and building the courses so that it's infused. And I got to say, whenever I teach a class, it becomes sustainability. There's no way to teach anything in fashion business, sourcing. I mean, it becomes a sustainable sourcing class. It just,
Exactly.
I can't say, let's go make everything regular cotton. I have to give alternatives. And I might even say, let's not use that cotton. It becomes that. So I
Yeah.
am so in tune with all that you just said. Amazing response.
I mean,
Okay.
it gives something really particular, because I also teach in India. And in India, I
Ah,
teach actually a really funny topic, which is don't mimic
mhm.
us. I basically break it down and say, we
Yeah,
really ruined it. And if you want to mimic us, that means you need to find a place on this planet the size of Asia to exploit. I,
right.
first of all, don't think you want to have that on your conscience, because it's really shitty. I know, because I'm there. Secondly,
Mhm.
we don't have that, and the planet won't support that. And I mean, we have to find different ways.
Me too.
It's really a very different message than what I give my European students. My European students, I just really try to make them very conscious about the fact that we're doing this and we should stop doing this. And in India, I really just tell them, like, you're not there yet. Please don't go there. It's not a happy space. Find a different
Don't
space.
even.
You have the luxury of not having these systems. Find different ones. So it's
Exactly. I love that. Wow, that's great. Yeah, I'm always thinking, designers should have to visit the chemical plants that
yeah.
make, all these toxic fabrics and
And the farm.
textiles in
Visit
the farms.
farms.
Yes, we should be on the farm. We customarily have been, as you said, teaching the bad practices, and we cut off the beginning part and the end. You're
Yeah.
designing wonderful product, but what happens when it's no longer being worn? Like what's the end game for this beautiful piece that you've designed? Right?
Yes.
We left that out as well. I put it in there. I'm like, we need this, the end, and we need the very beginning so we understand all of the in between.
Absolutely.
So I'm with you. I'm on that same train. All right. That was great. So now it's time for the Stitch Mob MVP of the week. This is where we celebrate someone who's pushing the movement forward, not for headlines, but for impact. The kind of change maker who's doing the slow, beautiful, necessary work. So, Deanie, do you have anyone who would be your MVP, who's moving with heart, with clarity, and with real world action in this space?
I mean, my first thought was my students, because they're the future. But then I have to look back, and I have to say that in the Netherlands, there is a lady called Marita. And
Mhm.
Marita has, for the last 30 years, quietly been building a wholesale platform for organic fabrics. And
Mm.
she knows so much. And she
Oh,
is making fabrics, she's working with farmers, she's collaborating, she is exploring different dyeing techniques, and she's making it all available for like tiny brands and for students. And it's so admirable because it's so vision and value driven. And it's just always a pleasure, because if I don't know, I can ask her, because she will definitely know.
That's awesome. I'm going to look her up. Thank you for sharing. We see
Wait,
you. We celebrate you.
I can do better,
Go ahead.
because I remember, I mean, her name is Marita, and obviously I forgot her last name, because I just know her as Marita. But her website is Ecological Textiles, and she
Thank you.
does.
Yes, just what we need. Thank you for that. All right. Before we close out, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. Dinie, I'd love for you to share with our listeners where they can find you and where they can follow the journey of Infantium Victoria.
So you have my own website, Dinie Van Den Heuvel, which I'm sure is somewhere listed where you found this podcast. I'm on Instagram, Dinie VDH. I put a lot of little videos out there with sustainability questions, and all my stories are about me visiting farms and visiting little startups that have amazing new discoveries and innovation going. So that's fun. And then, of course, you have the brand, infantiumvictoria.com, which is where you can see what we came up with this season. Yeah, I think.
If you're listening and feeling inspired, go follow her, please. Support the work. These are the kinds of stories we don't just want to hear, we need to live out loud. So today's takeaway, it's not just about fabric or form, it's about intention. It's about legacy. It's about making something your child can outgrow but never forget. Dinie reminds us that fashion can be a vessel for care, for ethics, for education, and for change. So that's a wrap on today's episode of The Ethical Stitch. Dinie, thank you so much for bringing your full self to this space, for showing us that sustainability isn't just about what we wear, it's about how we think, how we teach, how we build for the long haul. The truth is, our children are going to inherit this planet. So your work, your voice, your vision belongs to the heart of that future. So to everyone listening, thank you for tuning in, for questioning the norm, and for showing up to this movement with curiosity and care. If this conversation moved you, please pass it on. Tag us at The Ethical Stitch and at Michelle Alleyne Official. And remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's a pulse, and you are a part of it. Until next time, stay intentional, stay bold, and always, please stay stitched in. Thanks for tuning into The Ethical Stitch. If you loved this episode, share it, rate it, and tag me at Michelle Alleyne Official. The revolution in fashion starts with awareness, and you're already a part of it. Until next time, keep it ethical.